Welcome to the Grbcic Duo podcast, where Tony and Adam Grbcic will discuss current, past, and future factors that may affect the commercial market on the Gold Coast. Tune in monthly on your preferred platform.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another podcast with the Grbcic Duo. Today, it's just myself, Adam Grbcic, and we've got a guest, Ben McArthur. We have the privilege of working with Ben on one of his current projects, which we'll discuss. But before we get there, Ben, would be really good to understand your journey, where you've come from and where you are now.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me, first of all. It's been an interesting journey. I'm born and raised on the Gold Coast. Grew up here, got into construction industry through my father, who was a home builder.
Yeah.
And then joined Hutchinson Builders just post the GFC actually, and the mining boom was on. So that was a really interesting time, a steep learning curve. I actually owe a lot to a few key people at Hutchies. I look back on my time there with great fondness. I was there for a while, 9 years. I had a couple of years off in the middle in Canada building bridges, but the people at Hutchies, I think of like Greg Quinn, who was the managing director back then. He's now retired. Ben Young, who was huge for me. So Ben Young was the team leader at the time, running the mining division.
Yeah.
And we'd build mining camps between Queensland, southeast Queensland, transport them up to places like Moranbah and Dysart, places like that. But as a young bloke, at the time I was 19, so I was thrown in the deep end. I remember Greg saying to me, he goes, "That's how I find out who's got it and who hasn't. We just throw them in the deep end and they'll find a way to swim."
Sink or swim. Yeah.
It was good. It was a lot of fun. Work hard. At that point in time, probably my values I hadn't quite nailed down and what was important to me in life. I was a single bloke, working really hard. I was probably playing a bit hard as well. That's the reality of it. But yeah, as life went on, I sort of established, I got married, my beautiful wife. We've got 3 kids now, but financial gain for me became lower and lower in the order of priority. So for me, faith is my highest priority.
Yeah.
Family second. Fitness, I love my health and fitness. So we say the F's. Yeah. Faith, family, fitness, and then financial. I love work. I enjoy what I do every day, but it's not everything to me.
So do you think ordering, as you went through your F's, ordering it in that order that you did, the outcome of financial gain came organically because it wasn't the focus? Yeah,
I guess financial gain can come and go. I can be today's hero and tomorrow's nobody. It can come and go. You set out each day and you make shrewd decisions and you develop, key products in the marketplace, things that people see as cool and as fashionable. We want to deliver developments to the market that the market is desiring. That's our obvious thing. So you make shrewd decisions about where you build it, what you build, the type of product, and you execute on it. But money can come and go so quickly. Something that can't be taken away from you is your faith, your family, and also your fitness. You're in complete control of your health and well-being. So they're things you can rely on. You wake up every day and you rely on those things. Money, it'll come and go, and for us, it's come over time, but not because it's a core focus. It's just as a result of making shrewd decisions and having fun along the way. I think that's to me the most important thing. If you're not enjoying it, life's too short.
Yeah, we follow something very similar, we call them the pillars. And if you have the strong 4 pillars, if one breaks away, you still stand up. And your core values are those pillars, I guess. But to put some context onto from where you started and where you are now, you'll run multiple businesses. You're like the total staff that would be working underneath you, under all those business umbrellas. How many people would you have working for you?
So Geordie and I got together and started ARC Projects originally, which is an insurance repairer. So we just do insurance building, so we don't do private construction in that business. That's got 200 staff, and then the other 7 operating companies, which range from forensic engineering to an RTO to software, have about another 100 staff. So there's just over 300 in the group altogether. But each of those businesses have managing directors running them. Geordie and I, as a family office, we look at it as though we're a support function to those business heads. if I use Modus as an example, it's a forensic engineering business. We're nothing without Scotty running it. So Scotty, who's a partner in the business, he has equity in the business, runs it from day to day. Geordie and I support through key decisions and advice and support where we can. And it's the same in ARC these days. Sash is the MD of the business, and Geordie and I continue to support that growth and strategically advise where we can, but we're a support function to the leader in each business.
I've walked through your office, and with the amount of staff that you have and the culture I see, what do you think, and we're sort of digressing a little bit now, but what would you put down to the key attributes to having such a good culture inside your office place, where everyone's looking like they're having fun, working hard? And I was there when it was lunchtime. Every staff member was in the kitchen together, talking and socializing. How do you build that culture in such a big business?
Have fun with it. We work hard. That's the reality. We have to go to work each day, or most of us have to go to work each day. Now for me, it's about creating an environment that people want to go to work each day. The world's changed so much on the back of COVID. There's so many options for people. If you give them a workplace where they just feel they're going to get drilled all day, every day, why wouldn't they just leave and go somewhere else? So for me, it's around creating a culture where people want to be there. I feel like when the tide turns and you need an extra 10% out of them in those weeks or months where things happen and it's a bit of a grind, they're going to be willing to do it because they're in a workplace that they enjoy. And we try and provide that through the gym and just cultural things like the lunches. We have a monthly cook up where staff have to cook for the remainder of the office. I just make the theme up every month. So, coming up on the 12th of May, we've got a cook up. We just randomly pick 9 staff and they've got to cook Mexican for the whole office. And that means 8 operating businesses just get together around the kitchen. And they play table tennis. They might have a drink or two. They play on racing simulators. They work out in the gym. Doesn't really matter, but we expect a lot. To be the best, I think you got to expect the best. But in return, I think you got to give back a little bit as well.
So there's a twofold question then, because I've been through your office and we've spoken about what you've added. So obviously health, mental health and enjoyment is key in your office. And then we have a look at your latest development that we're helping out with the sanctuary. And I think you've obviously brought a lot of those ideas or that mentality into that project, because you've delivered something that isn't out there to service a need that people probably didn't know they needed until it was given. So maybe we should just chat about, where did the idea of the sanctuary come from? What inspired you to do it? And what was what's utopia when it's finished? What would it look like?
Yeah, I think, the sanctuary was Geordie's idea. So Jordan, he's a visionary, my business partner. We've been together for a very long time. We've been friends since I was 15 years old. All the ideas that we've ever come up with have been Jordan's, which, I'm happy to support. He's a visionary. I've got no idea. I just run operations. But that's his skill set. He's extremely creative, but he's always looking 3 years down the line. And during COVID, the way people work changed so much. It's now not about cubicles in an office floor on the 10th floor in the middle of the CBD. That's just not what people are looking for. So what we wanted to do with the sanctuary was connect home, work, fitness, lifestyle, all in one. So the sanctuary is a mix of man caves, office space, warehouse, all in one location. So far, the buyers have been a range of pick and pack distribution. So makeup lines, for instance, has been big. A couple of tradesmen, there's a couple of family offices. And there's 3 levels, so they're distinct in terms of what the offering is on each level. So, on the lower level is really nice product for storage, pick and pack, distribution, maybe a small office. And then you come up to the street level where it's more warehouse, and you've got probably an open floor plan for a gym or shared working space, things like that. And then the top level's like an allied health precinct. So that's what's going up there.
Yeah, and I've noticed from a lot of the buyers that we've dealt with, obviously coming out of a period where there was such a lack of travel and that people had the inability to do too much outside of Australia, they've accumulated items to enjoy life, but they've got nowhere to store them. So we've got people with the caravan park, it's not caravan parks, we've got people with caravans, boats, toys, and because of the shift in the residential market where people are not downsizing but wanting to look for lifestyle for a few of the same reasons, this seems to be that solution to have both. You don't need a large property to have all your toys. You can separate them and sort of have that home away from home where you can keep everything. So I think it's been received well. But just going back, I mean, the project itself, from the outside looking in, it hadn't been done before on the Gold Coast. You've got a multi-level, multi-level industrial complex with a health precinct upstairs. So the whole concept was new, which from your side, was it a big risk, or did you know that the market would adapt it like it has?
Everything in life's a risk, but you look at it through a shrewd lens as to what's going to be needed over the next few years. And I didn't expect the market to take it up like it did. That's the reality. It was probably going to be a slow, people start to see it and then they believe it, the vision. But people need, like you said, those spaces where they can play where they work where they play, store their goods. They have a little home office there. A lot of people like me, I've got a young family at home. It's near on impossible to sit at the kitchen bench and work.
Yeah.
So, you set up a little family office there. You can store your boat or your jet ski or your cars downstairs. If it's pick and pack, you can have your office upstairs and you pick and pack downstairs. And you're also connected to a coffee shop at the front or a gym, your allied health services. So that was, the sanctuary was a bit about exactly that, creating a sanctuary that people can go to and live, work, play, do everything there. So that's what the sanctuary.
And the big thing is, and we hopefully we can put imagery up, is when you're going in, you're not looking like you're going into an industrial complex, because the amount of phone calls we've got for people thinking, can you live there? Because it is so bespoke and architectural for this type of product. You don't feel like you're going into a complex to work. You're going into an environment, and I think that was key.
Yeah, well, that was it. You see so many square boxes just plugged around industrial estates everywhere, not just the Gold Coast. This was about putting something in the heart of the Gold Coast, in the middle of Southport, that looks like it's out of this world.
Yeah.
It's something new. You drive past it, it's confronting, it draws your attention, it's beautiful. And that was really what we wanted to create. It's green, it's architectural, and it feels like home, but it's not home.
Yeah. And now with, going back into the general real estate environment, there's a lot of projects that have been planned, a lot of great projects, both residential and commercial, but there's this big risk of them not proceeding because of what's happening in the construction environment. Coming from the construction background, do you have any short or long-term views on what's happening in the construction industry? Is it this sort of environment where it'll come back? Will it normalise, or is this the new normal, or where are we going in construction?
I think there's a little bit more pain to go for some companies before the blue skies, I should say. It was a tough time, COVID. All these builders got an accumulation of work that they then couldn't stand by their price. We've never done private construction, Jordan and I on our own. That's not a sector we're in. We just build our own developments and do insurance building. That's who we are, what we do. We're insurance builders, and we do 1 or 2 developments a year, building our own developments. And the reason why we are strong believers in the builder-developer model is exactly that, control of risk. We want to see out the project we started, deliver it to the market. If you sell something to someone, then you should honour that word. And it was just about a risk profile. For us was, well, we're builders, we should just build our own, and that way we've got surety of delivery.
Yeah. And I think, do you think moving forward that the developer-builder model is going to be more prominent, that the developers are going to have their own construction teams, or do you think that just needs to be more builders in the market, whether or not that can happen or not?
I think it's the way of the future, definitely, because commercial builders on their own, the reality is they take on a lot of risk and don't make enough money for the risk that they take on. Builders and developers as one entity creates a surety of delivery, and if I'm a financier or I'm the end user, the person who's purchased something, for me that would give me a lot of confidence that I'm going to see the product. And obviously we see the pain that's in the market with the home builders at the moment.
Yeah.
You know, we don't want that in the commercial sector, but the reality is while ever there's a private builder and a separate developer, that's going to happen.
Yeah.
So we've negated that by building our own developments, and that's all we've done for years. So we're pretty low key, Geordie and I. We're not trying to be big time property developers. We do a couple a year, try and deliver good products into the market and stand by our word.
Yeah. Now, I think, well, now that we've got you here, just to touch on a few more things. I mean, you have, and we don't have to go through all the businesses. We know that you've got a magnitude of staff. This is a side project. What are some tips to, I mean, you never seem to be stressed out. You always have time for your family. I mean, what are your key tips on having that balance when you are controlling and managing so many different projects and jobs at the same time? Like, what would your top tip be for someone in the same sort of position?
Perspective. I think perspective is huge.
Yeah.
Like even now, you have to remind yourself at certain points in time where you get a little bit out of balance, and you know, you're sitting around the dinner table with your wife, and she just reminds you, she's like, oh yeah, you know, you haven't been around. Normally, I always try and do 5 pickups or drop-offs a week. There's obviously 10 in a week, you know, between drop-off and pickup from school. I want to be doing at least half of those. I look at my upbringing. My father was always around. He was not a corporate dad who was never there. I have a strong family. My mum and dad are still together. I'm very close with both of them. It's something that I think is foundational to building a good person. Obviously, my dad taught me a work ethic. He was a loving father. At times, I'm sure he had to be firm with me. Oh, he was definitely firm with me. But that builds a healthy respect and love. And how can you do that if they're not there?
Yeah.
And I think that's huge. So it just grounds you, I think, as a person, if financial things are not the most important things in life. Like for us, we obviously have our faith as Jehovah's Witnesses. That's the most important thing to us by far. Then family. So our relationship with our wives are the second most important thing to us after our relationship with God. So they're the key pillars that you build on. Obviously fitness is fun, and I've thrown that in as another F because my wife and I love keeping healthy and active, and it's just something we really enjoy. And from a mental state of mind, it just keeps us mentally healthy as much as anything. But
so what do you think, I mean, because you're number one, what from your faith do you think you channel through your business and your staff? Because I'm sure there's no coincidence that if you've got good values and strong values, that your staff feed off that and they resonate with it, because like you have one of the happiest workplaces to walk into. So do you think it flows on? Is there any correlation between that?
I think 100% there is. I think values and morals is all you've got to give. Like if you can impart morals that we've learnt onto others that maybe don't have the same belief as us, but they tend to grow and live by the same morals. Yeah. Well, you're all going to treat each other how you want to be treated. You know, one of the key principles from the Bible is love your neighbour as yourself. Yeah. So it's a very overarching principle, but if that's what you live by, you're going to treat each person with respect, and that comes back. So if it's a two-way street, and I think that creates a really nice, loving environment. And of course, we expect each other to perform. That's work. That's reality. But even if they don't perform, the way you deal with it is with respect. And I think that earns you a lot of respect, but they also grow as a person as well, because you're honest with people. They're honest in return. Yes, you work hard. You enjoy work. They get paid a fair wage for it. It just creates it's a cyclical effect, and it creates a really nice environment to work in that I know Geordie and I are extremely proud of.
Yeah, and I think if you look, and it's, I mean, not to pinpoint any specific companies, but some of the bigger companies that haven't been around as long as you and probably won't be, around for as long as you will moving forward, it's probably because they've broken some sort of core value. There may be some deception, some level of distrust, a bad dealing, and that sort of tends to be the breaking point of a lot of businesses. So having your core values as a business around your faith is probably protecting that for the long term, I would say.
We, like all those businesses, will make mistakes in decision making. We all do. That's humans. We're imperfect. But be honest with yourself, be honest with each other. Just own it. Be shrewd, make the best decision to rectify that mistake and push forward. I think a lot of businesses get themselves in trouble because they make a mistake and then it's all about how quickly can we try and cover it up and hide it and look, let's protect an image as such. I mean, ego and someone's image plays so much of a role in how they are as a person. No one wants to deal with arrogant guys or girls. It's just not the way we're made up as humans. So a lot of people are trying to protect this image. It's just a false facade. There's nothing wrong with just being a good bloke.
Yeah.
That's always go back to the good bloke rule, I reckon.
Yeah, I agree. And I don't know the full story about the growth of your company, but I have no doubt that a company to grow to that extent would have been because of the level of trust that you built with key relationships and other people.
Yeah. The way the world works is relationships. It's not what you know, it's who you know. And I'm extremely blessed to have had some very good people in our business that Geordie and I just support to grow. They're smarter than us. They specialise in that industry and they're good leaders. Yeah. And we just support them where we can, either through some decision making, strategic advice. We don't get it right either all the time, but because sometimes we can come at it from a different angle because we're not in it day to day, we're a step removed, that helps us. But I look at the people in each business and they're way smarter than us. We're just a support function to them. And across the 8 businesses within the group, we're privileged to probably have 20 or 30 people that are extremely talented and in the top 1% in the business world, if that's what you want to call it, that perform a really good role in our company, and we wouldn't be where we are today without them.
All right, I think that's probably one of the biggest key takeaways to grow a business or multiple businesses of this magnitude. This sounds like there's no micromanaging. You put your full trust in the person in that role, and you're just there as just to consult if need be.
Yeah, I certainly don't think there's micromanagement, and I think all the staff would agree, and the leaders within each business would certainly agree, but you'd have to ask them for confirmation, I guess.
Very good. Well, I think, this has been great, the big takeaways, because to have someone like you who has grown a business of this magnitude to this size, but to be so level-headed, calm, and still, have the ability to spend so much time with family, friends, and never seem to be uptight, no matter what's going on.
I'm stressed.
Maybe it's your ice bath every morning. Yeah. I just want to cover up on the sanctuary. We've been marketing for a while, and it's now at the stage that we're in construction. So just as a quick, moving forward, the sanctuary, the construction process, what stage currently are we at?
Yeah, so all permits are obviously in place. We've started on site. The bulk excavation is now complete. It's a proper construction site now. Obviously, I'd welcome any potential buyers. There's 6 left, Adam? I think there's 6 left. Would be able to tell us. But anyone who is going to look at buying, I would love to meet them personally on site. You want to know that they're the right person going into your development as well. Yeah. So the reality is we're retaining a couple. I want to make sure the people that we're going to be working beside or have tenancies next to are the right people as well. So.
And I think we've done that with the lovely people that we have dealt with, and the ideas that they've got. A lot of artistic people, a lot of people that obviously are going to treat it with quite big pride because of what they're putting in there. So it is going to be a magical precinct, and then we've got upstairs the idea of the wellness centre connecting to the businesses below. Maybe just a quick overview. So, you might be working or, coming and going from those sheds that you've purchased, but upstairs, the facilities that will be provided will be, it's an array of allied health.
Yeah.
So what would Utopia be upstairs?
So the first 2 levels are industrial, family office, storage spaces. The front 2 on Olsen Avenue, co-working space, and likely a gym that hasn't been locked in, but likely a gym and the co-working space. And then above it, you've got things like a recovery centre, your physio, osteo, we've got a beauty salon going in, things like that. So it'll just be your whole your sanctuary. Yeah. That was the thought behind it, was to create a sanctuary, a home away from home. So you'll be able to go there, you can work out, you can get your treatments, and then you can head home and you can disconnect. You can actually spend family time without having to go back out the door.
Yeah, and what would be next for you guys? The sanctuary under construction now. There are only a few left, and then the health precinct obviously comes shortly after. What's next for yourself and Ben? Is there plans to keep doing these out of the box, finding solutions for what will be a solution for the shortage of stock coming to the market?
Yeah, I think for us definitely especially the Gold Coast, that's home for us, and what the market's going to do over the next 10 years on the Gold Coast and population growth, there's going to be a need for more of this product. So we're already looking at a couple of sites at the moment to do something similar, but I'm a massive believer in the Gold Coast property market. I think it's a great place to live, obviously from a climate point of view. There's a lot of migration from interstate, international migration. The world's changed where you don't have to be in Sydney or Melbourne to do business.
Correct, yeah.
You can fly in, fly back within a day.
Yeah, and I think what people are, what I understand now about the Gold Coast is we will never be one of those capital cities where your commercial precincts are high-rise, commercial-only office buildings with that 9 to 5 environment, because we are so fortunate to have easy access to all of our suburbs, and we can generally drive to all of our suburbs, that these pockets around and close to the CBD areas are becoming more and more popular, because the average business generally has less than 10 staff. So you don't need these big floor plates. And to create a good environment for a small group of staff, you want them to be somewhere where they enjoy working.
Yeah, I think for us, you're within 10 minutes of your children's school, your family home, the beach, the hills. Why wouldn't you live on the Gold Coast? Yeah, it seems crazy.
Yeah, and I don't have it in front of me, but the statistics of the interstate migration to Queensland hasn't slowed down, and the majority of people are looking to be on the Gold Coast, which means we've got a flurry of people that need somewhere to obviously buy or rent or work. And a lot of these people relocating have established businesses, and so they'll just be operating from a different city, and they need somewhere to work. Looking at how many commercial developments office-wise on the Gold Coast over the last 3 or 4 years, there's probably only 1 or 2. So I think that this model is what the market needs, and I think that the only threat is that we won't be able to build enough for the amount of people coming.
I think that's exactly the thought process that Geordie and I have, is supply good stock into a market that is in need. Yeah. That's the starting point.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, that's been great. It's an awesome story from Ben, and there's so much more to it from where he started to where he is, and as we spoke about before, to talk about all of his businesses the intro would have been too long. So
it's just work. I think that's what I would love everyone to take away from, just perspective.
Yeah, and I think the key thing is and what resonates is that the culture you create, obviously, I know we spoke about that it wasn't for financial gain, but it seems to be a byproduct to all the people that run businesses that have good core values. Yeah. If the leaders have good core values, the staff seem to stay a lot longer, and those businesses seem to flourish. So,
thanks for having me.
No, my pleasure. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
All right.